You're listening
to the CD Baby
CD Baby
DIY
Musician
Podcast.
Hey there, and welcome to another edition of the CD Baby DIY Musician Podcast. My name is Kevin, and joining me for this Roundtable edition is Chris, and Ryan Wines is back here with us.
Word.
Glad to be back.
I can't remember what episode it was that you sat in with us, but
It's been a couple, I think.
Yeah, it's been a couple.
It was two.
We get good reviews when you're on the show.
Stop.
Our ratings bounce up higher, so
Stop it. Come on.
But it's always good to have you. Lots of great conversation, and it's been an exciting day here at CD Baby. Works Progress Administration just stopped by to be on the Music Discovery Podcast, and you know what? It's the first time that anyone has come and played here at CD Baby since I've worked here for 3.5 years. So,
First time for everything.
yes, and I think more artists should do it. So we're just in Portland by the airport.
Yeah,
Convenient.
Fly in.
Fly in, stop by CD Baby, locate your CD on the shelf, take your picture. Anyway, let's move on. We've got some news items we'll discuss and do a recap of last week's episode, number 68 with Celldweller, and then we've got some other tidbits to talk about. So let's get to it.
CD Baby.
music.
Well, music piracy does cost money, but does fighting it cost more? The major music labels say that they stand to lose £20 million this year in the UK alone thanks to internet file sharing, but one of the country's biggest ISPs is now slinging around some huge numbers of its own, saying it will actually cost ISPs £365 million a year to adopt a three strikes rule that is intended to stem piracy.
Arr.
Of course, there's news in the ongoing social networking wars. MySpace just announced that you can now sync your MySpace updates to Twitter. So when you post an update to your MySpace page, it will go to Twitter automatically. And if you're someone like me who has their Twitter account synced to Facebook, the new feature at MySpace would mean that when I update my MySpace page, it will update Twitter and Facebook as well. Well, the copyright issues continue to heat up as word that ASCAP and BMI have their sights set on collecting fees from three main areas: downloads of music, downloads of films and TV shows, and 30-second song samples. This news received an immediate backlash on the internet and looks to be a knockdown, drag-out fight where, in the end, there might not be any winners. If you're interested in seeing all the details that are available at this point, I'm going to put a link to the article found on CNET. If ASCAP and BMI have their way, it will have a serious effect on many different types of online music business models. So I expect to see a whole lot more about this in the future.
How
And
can
that's all the articles I thought I'd share.
how can a group that's purpose is to collect performance royalties justify collecting royalties on downloads?
That's one of the big issues that people are going to fight, and I think they'll lose that one. But they're saying that it's a performance. It's really
That's like
great.
saying
Yeah.
buying a record in a store is a performance.
You got to read. I'll put a link to the article in the show notes. You got to read the article. It's pretty amazing, and they've pretty much showed their hand that they're going to try and get money anywhere. So it's
I could maybe see downloading, a TV show or movie, because that's just like usage that you would see on your television at home, but the downloads makes no
the
sense.
problem is that originally when these places were set up, ASCAP, BMI, and CSAC, the only way music was performed was publicly, whether you played it live or the radio. And then as the business became more of something people do privately, with albums and, now downloads, and they're getting less and less income streams because radio's losing its impact and its power and less people listening, and it's all fractured. And so they're just trying to get a bit bigger piece of the pie somehow. And yes, it affects us all, and I mean us all. But MySpace, you can now update. So I update your Twitter and Facebook if you update,
See, that's the first thing. You have to have something that you want to say, which I've been like silent
You have
on
been
MySpace and Facebook and Twitter
You have.
for like a month.
This is the best reason I've heard of in a long time to go to MySpace.
Well, and that's the thing.
That's true, yeah.
I have a friend who listens to the podcast who works in their Australian office. I think they're really trying to get their act together. And it's funny because so much of the attention's been on Facebook and Twitter that they've kind of forgotten about MySpace and the benefits that it does have over the other networks, which is, like the music sharing abilities. That, it's like keep slipping some things in like this in the back door where it's like suddenly it's like, I can just go to MySpace and do all three as opposed to, and there's other networks or services that have popped up to accommodate that for you, and MySpace just took care of it all.
Is TweetDeck going to, and similar services going to interface with that too?
TweetDeck now can. The latest update of TweetDeck does interface with all three, so.
Wow.
Well, let's move into a little recap of my interview with Klayton from Celldweller. I thought it was a great interview. He has a really cool story, the typical, kind of screwed over by the mainstream industry. But what I thought was unique to his story is a lot of times when a record company goes under and, you haven't recouped. In his case, they didn't even release the album. It went under before that. Normally they just write it all off, and I've heard all these stories like artists saying, we were given a $200,000 advance, and then they decided not to release our record, and the label, the parent company shut down the label, and they just wrote off our record, gave us the masters, and what else could you ask for?
In his case, they kept him under the gun, though,
yes,
right?
They did, and
I was really happy to. I actually hadn't really investigated him much before the interview. I know he was a big seller on CD Baby, but after hearing the interview, I went back and listened to some of his music, and it's totally not my thing normally, like that sort of testosterone-fueled, what would you call it, like industrial metal, techno, fusion kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a weird mix that works.
Like, normally I hate that music, and it seems like someone just presses play on their, like, arpeggiator on their synth at home, and then they just make some dumb, distorted guitar riff over it. But his music was really intricate and creative and had all sorts of crazy melodies and chord changes, and I could tell he's just stays home and works his ass off crafting that stuff.
Yeah, and if he's got a blog where he talks a lot about this, which is kind of cool if you're somebody who's more into studio stuff, production stuff. His blog's probably worth following. He showed a screenshot, and he mentioned this in the interview, a screenshot of his Pro Tools session where he was just tracking some guitars and trying to, get some crazy sounds. And the song, it's hard to visualize without seeing the picture, but the song itself, which was probably like 5 minutes long, on the image is like, half an inch because he had zoomed out so far. And then there was like an hour's worth of this guitar take, him just doing all sorts of crazy stuff.
It's good that he's engineering himself, because the people I work with would kill me if I did that many guitar takes.
So anyway, he's definitely somebody who spends a lot of time crafting that stuff. And I would recommend checking out his blog. And Robert Lee King, who is famous for his comments on our show notes, said it was his favorite interview to date. So if you haven't heard it, check it out. But Ryan, while you're here with us, we were having a little interesting conversation last night. You put out on Facebook and Twitter, you had talked to a band, and they said that their goal was to get the ear of an A&R guy and get radio play, and that kind of surprised you that this indie band here in Portland would say such a thing.
It did surprise me, and then of course it didn't surprise me because the only reason I even posted it on Facebook is because I think there's probably a lot of people that still think that way, and so I think the more dialogue we can get around these topics, hopefully the more we can all learn. But I think you commented about. What did you say? There's A&R guys?
Yeah, I said there's still A&R guys that exist.
Or there's still radio?
Yeah, there's still radio.
Yeah, well, I think radio definitely has a place, still, and it's going strong. It's evolving, it's changing. And, as far as I'm concerned with radio is evolving into a multimedia, social media, community building tool. It's not just terrestrial radio anymore. It's becoming something much bigger than what it used to be. And that's good and bad. It depends on how you look at it. So I think there's definitely some advantages to radio. And I've heard some stories even in the past few months of some real big success stories based on successful radio campaigns. I've heard some great things about Blitz and Trapper's radio campaign. They're an indie band that's based in Portland. I think they're on Sub Pop. And then, but the other side of this thing, this A&R, let's find the A&R guy and shop our record. Like, if you're looking for an A&R guy, you better look real hard.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I think that position has pretty much. Technically, somebody may do that job, but I don't know that there's many labels, especially that are going to be putting out independent artists that just has a title A&R anymore. It seems like everyone at labels now are wearing a bunch of different hats, but that's just my perception.
And what does it mean to shop a record anymore?
I know, exactly.
Is it like showing it to your friends or taking it home to mom? I mean, really, like shopping a record is something that I don't think we're going to really see anymore.
Well, and that's what I guess somewhat frustrates me with artists who kind of still have that idea in their head, is that the whole purpose of that was because there was no distribution. Like when Small Town Poets, when I started playing with them, my first rehearsal with them was they were sending out 3-song demo tapes, still the era of tapes, to some labels because you weren't going to distribute a record any other way. And this was 1996, and there was no way that without those gatekeepers putting out your record, and so that was the whole point of shopping it. But now you can get on iTunes, CD Baby, everywhere, and you don't need them if they're going to move your career to the next level. That's when you start talking with those kind of people, but you don't need them to get your music out there.
Yeah, I have friends in 4 different bands that I can think of, and I won't mention any of their names, that are all sitting on finished records that are afraid to put them out self-release. They're waiting and waiting and waiting for a label. Some of them have had previous relations with labels, and maybe those labels just aren't putting out records anymore, or they're putting out less records, or for whatever reason. And these bands are sitting on these albums. I'm like, just put it out. Just put it out yourself. And I think there's 2 reasons they don't do it. And it's probably a little different for each of them. But what I can tell is that some of them are afraid if they put out an album on their own, it's an admission of failure in some way, which seems totally crazy to me. But, no one liked it enough to put it out. And then the other reason is they're maybe a little lazy, and what the labels used to afford them was connection to a booking agent and a publicist and, all the different stuff that goes with releasing an album and promoting it. And they don't want to have to deal with all that. They'd rather just keep looking for the person that's going to do all that for them. And I'm going to shut my phone off.
Good going.
Are they going to are they continuing to make music, these bands? Or are they kind of on pause, waiting for something to happen?
Well, actually, some of them have continued to make music while technically on pause for releasing it. They're continuing to be productive, but they're not taking those steps to release it and get promoting. Some of them are just on pause and sitting on it.
Well, one of the bands I work with, and I don't think they would mind that I say this, but Derby put out a great record. Well, I'm biased, of course, but they had it done.
Disclaimer: you do manage them.
I do manage them.
That's right. But they had this record called Posters Fade done for a year and a half, probably, maybe close to 2 years before they actually put it out, because they were doing this very same thing. They actually had people on some smaller labels express interest, and they were flirting with some of them. Flirting meaning there's some mild, some talking going on. A friend of a friend says they want to hear it. Some meetings taking place, but in the end, nothing happened. And during all that time, they were writing a few little demos here and there, but they were really kind of on pause, waiting to see what would happen. Putting all their time and resources and energy into this. And in the end, there wasn't a label to put it out. They put it out themselves, and I think it has a happy ending now. But in retrospect, they've been so frustrated that they waited and were so careful about how they were putting it out, because now, if you ask them, they're like, put your music out. Don't wait a day. Don't wait a week. Don't wait for someone else to come along and help you. Do it yourself. Figure it out and do it.
Well, and the thing that's interesting to me, because I have a friend who's kind of in starting the similar process, who's down in LA, and he's a songwriter, and he's been writing more for this particular girl that's like a girl pop rock type thing that you'd hear on like MTV or, the Disney Channel for 13-year-olds. And I was talking to him like, hey, I can get onto iTunes for you, no problem. He's like, well, I don't want to release it because, we're really wanting to shop this. And if they put it, if we already have it out, they're not going to want to put it out. They're like, this is the record. And to me, it's, that might have been how it was. He was actually a roommate of mine in college. And it might have been how it was back when, we were in college studying music business together. But now I think labels are so scared to take a chance on anything because their profits are declining that the first thing they're going to ask is, what's your sales history?
Yeah, they'd rather you put it out, sell some, and then they say, oh, this is selling. We should jump on board.
Yeah, I mean, because when you say, I've got this product we've just been waiting for you to do something with it, they're going to say, well, I've got my choice of 100 different artists. These artists already have a proven product that sells. You guys are, who knows? So to me, it's just, you got to get out there. Plus, with the music my band's working on, we've really, since one of our last conversations with you, Ryan, when we were talking about frequency, have really decided that, we're going to just keep putting music out as much as we can. And this first EP has taken a long time. And, it's our first time recording together, and we learned some things about, the people we've been recording with, and just how to do it as a band. And so next time it won't take as long. But our idea is just that, we want to keep putting out new tracks every couple months to keep people interested. But also, I think one of your best assets as an artist is your catalog. And too many times, and I've been in a band like this myself, where your catalog is 9 songs and you never get beyond that. And you're always trying to see it as, we got to push this out and we got to work it. And it's just to me, it's just just keep it coming. And the more you have out there as your popularity grows, the more people are going to go back and buy everything. And it's just going to, I think, do better in the long run than just trying to wait everything out and do a really big push and then just wait it out.
Well, right, because if there's a group of people, fans, that really like those 9 songs, they're not going to buy those same 9 songs 3 or 4 times, right?
Exactly.
Right? But the more songs you give them, they'll buy.
But wait, what if you repackage it?
You can
claim it was remixed.
Remixed.
Acoustic versions.
Yeah.
Live versions.
Mm-hmm.
No, but this back to this idea of shopping for labels, I think there is a solution, and it's an answer that a lot of people don't necessarily like, but ask yourself the question, what do you want from a label? What are you looking for? And unpack it from that side. People are going to say, well, I want money. I want to pay for recording. I want to pay for production. I want to pay for duplication and sales and marketing. Great. Go figure it out. I mean, in today's day and age, there's not going to be some magic carpet ride that's going to come along and swoop you up and take you along to the big time. I mean, you need to really work your butt off. Yeah. And figure it out. Network, talk to people, go tap your rich uncle, and find ways to do it without spending money. The biggest problem I think with so many bands today is they borrow money. They go into debt. They go in the hole. Before you know it, you're sunk. And the guitarist hates the drummer, and everybody's mad because they're all losing money, and their wives and girlfriends are ticked off. And it's wait a minute, stop spending money you don't have.
Yeah.
Live a sustainable life with your band and come at it from that approach. You have to really build this team around you, people that are excited, a community, and really start leveraging people with their talents and their skills. There's people that like your band. There's people that support you, hopefully, if you're doing a good job. And enlist those people, right?
I was about to start cheering when you said stay out of debt. But to go back right before that, you were talking about figuring out what you want from a label. I think that's one thing after my experience when I came out of that and was like, yeah, you really don't need a label for a lot of this stuff now. But, it's okay, if I boil it down, the things a label did afford was getting us exposed to a broader audience. Yes, that was true. Getting us on radio, that's probably not as much the case anymore. And obviously distribution, and that problem solved now. So it's really just exposing us to a broader audience. But at the same time, we were busting our butt off. The real thing the label really gave us was pretty much the stamp of approval from family and friends that yes, you are official, go tour, and, you know, even if you're poor, that's, you know, you are a real band.
Right.
And that's really what I think now, that's all, besides, you know, possibly depending on the label, you're getting exposed hopefully to a broader audience, but it's just kind of giving you that stamp of approval. And I think that's really what people want, to legitimize that for...
I think that's the most important thing that people want from it.
Because even if you're still making the same amount of money, to the people you're trying to get to believe in you, it's kind of that approval of, yes, they are doing what they should be doing.
Well, and it seems like, you know, you brought up these things like distribution, these things that now have easier solutions that you don't necessarily need a label for, right? But one of the things you still kind of need is you need marketing, you need publicity, you need a strategy, and a lot of that's happening online now for bands to get the word out, right? I mean, you need to basically evangelize your music to all these people that you are hoping are going to be into it, and that's how you ideally, I think, build a fan base and build interest in your work. You need to do that, and not all bands are equipped to do that. And so there are some aspects that you need to do, like publicity and PR and marketing. But back to this idea of, do you sit on a record and wait for someone to show interest, or do you just get it out? And this idea of frequency, that is the one thing that I would say you could go the other direction too far and get your music out too fast. And if you don't have marketing behind it, publicity behind it, if people aren't aware that you're putting out music, for instance, if you're really big in Europe and you're going to put a record out in Europe, but you don't spend any marketing dollars or any publicity to let Europe know that your record's coming out over there, then you're doing something wrong. And so, you know, there is more to it than just hurry, get your record out, don't sit on it. You know, you do need to be thoughtful and be strategic, but you don't want to wait a year or two to put it out, that's for sure.
For me, the thing that I always, you know, I'll take my time finishing a record, but once I know it's done and it's in a place where I feel good about it, I'm like this half-ass shopper of records. I'll send it to a few people and, you know, see if they bite or not. But you sometimes the response is, yeah, like we're into putting out records like in October, and it's like March. Like, I'm not going to wait that long because it'll drive me nuts to sit on a record for, you know, 8 months or whatever that is. And so I just put it out, and then I can move on and like creatively sort of have that release, you know, and then clear the slate, get back to recording and writing a new thing. It would just drive me nuts to sit on something like that.
If you start working with a label, they could keep that
sit on it for 2 years.
When my friend was working at a label, they had an artist that she was a female artist, and at that time, female artist doing the kind of music she was doing was like becoming hugely popular. And her record was done, and it was supposed to be released in the fall. And this was like late spring when they finished. It was supposed to be released in the fall, and they shelved it till the following spring. And by that time, the whole wave of people being interested in that, you know, female artist doing kind of singer-songwriter, kind of poppy singer-songwriter music had passed, and she kind of came out way beyond the bubble, and just totally her career. Everyone was picking her to be like this next big star, and no one ever heard of her.
Well, and I would piggyback on that. It's, if you want a label and need a label and you make that agreement, then you're kind of handing over the controls to someone else. And you have to ask yourself that. If you give it to a label, you do lose some of the control, some of the decision-making that's going on in many cases. I mean, there's a lot of that to be decided on a case-by-case basis, but how much do you really want to give to someone else?
Yeah, and that's probably one thing that a lot of indie artists, even working with indie labels, don't realize that, you know, the DIY artist just thinks, okay, I've got an album done, I'm gonna give it to CD Baby, they'll get me up there, get on iTunes, and we're good to go. Where labels, even the smallest of indie labels that have physical distribution, have certain timelines and certain allowances of how many, you know, albums they can release in certain quarters, and you got to wait for one of those windows to open, and those windows may be slotted out for a while, so you're just gonna have to sit on it. So all those things you need to ask about up front, because a lot of times there's surprises on the back end.
Rules.
Gosh, who needs them?
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny because all of these things, we're definitely in this time in the music world where, you know, there's all these old rules and then there's these new ideas and they're all colliding, and it seems like the only real rule is that there are no rules. But as soon as I say that, like,
there's a rule.
I get caught in some rule that I so.
Darn it. Well, we're kind of hitting on a couple topics today. I've got another one I wanted to get to that's been burning me up for a while, but it's okay. We went a good bit of the summer without podcasts, and so
Save it.
we've been mulling on. What?
Oh, you're going to bring it up.
Yeah, I'm going to bring it up.
I thought you were going to save it.
No, because
to,
I was wanting Ryan to weigh in on this topic,
Okay.
and I was planning on asking him a few weeks back, and then, whatever. Here we are now.
Is it
Let's
about
talk.
nachos?
No, it's not about nachos.
Okay.
Ryan is a huge nachos fan. I like nachos as well, so oftentimes when I'm hanging out with Ryan, there are nachos.
Okay.
But Ryan gets nachos delivered to him by bands, apparently, at shows.
That's why I'm 30 pounds overweight.
But anyway, there has been this thing, this idea that's just been burning me up lately, and I wanted Ryan to weigh in on it, but I've seen it being passed around a lot on the internet, and various gurus. I just did air quotes. People listening to the podcast can't see that.
Very nice.
But the idea of that your recorded song is merely just a business card, and your album is just your resume, and that it's just a way to promote yourself as an artist. And that whole mentality has kind of been driving me crazy a little bit, just because I often find it being said by people who aren't musicians.
It's
So-
your business card towards what end?
Just-
Playing live?
Yes.
Well, people don't go to shows anymore either. So
Well, see, that's part of my point. But the whole point that they say is that recorded music is just a means of promotion to promote your band and your art, and I guess the live shows where you're going to make your money.
and so because it's just a business card, you should spend less time on it?
Well, and the thing that makes me frustrated with it is because a lot of this comes from people saying that, music is just going to be free. Now, I don't necessarily subscribe to that, but I do say that, it's good to give away some tracks for promo purposes, but I don't think that, I think if you start thinking about it as reducing music to it being just merely a promotional tool, it totally eliminates the aspect of recorded medium being an art form in itself. Because I don't put a whole lot of thought into a business card. It could look cool, but the idea is to convey information. A resume just says what I've done, but music is art, and recording music is an art form separate from performing live. And if you just kind of say that one's just really a means to the other, I think you miss, first of all, a whole chunk of people who enjoy music a certain way, but you also eliminate a lot of people that don't want to play live or are great live and just record every once in a while. But anyway, that's something I've been seeing a lot lately, and it's just been burning me up. I had to see. Ryan looks like he has something to say.
Well, I have an opinion on this, and I know it's the unpopular opinion. But you love it or hate it, I have to say it is what it is. But music is becoming free. I mean, it's a slippery slope, and the trends are all showing that it's going that way. People are paying for music less. People are listening to music more than ever before in the history of mankind. So music is in high demand, higher demand than it's ever been. But people are not paying for it, and they're certainly not paying for it as much in the physical realm of CDs and vinyl and things like that. Maybe vinyl's up; it's trendy right now. But physical music is down. Digital music is still kind of hanging okay. But the problem is that it's available, and
Supply has more than met demand.
Oh, there's so much supply, and so if you think about it, so instead of thinking in terms of business cards and resumes, think about other businesses and other companies and services out there that, for instance, have you ever been to a trade show and you walk around to the trade show booths, and what are they all doing? They're all handing you free stuff. They're giving you,
But it's all crap.
well, it is. Well, okay, so it's just like the
Just like music.
Yeah, just like the music industry.
All right, you changed my mind.
It's like the music industry. Most of it's crap, but every once in a while you'll get like a 4 gigabyte USB drive, and you're like, wow, I'll take that. But these businesses are giving away free things as promotional tools to get you to come and check out whatever they're offering. And you also see this in the marketplace: free trials, free memberships, try this for free, or something like that. And so they're wanting you to have exposure to what they're doing. So then you become a fan, you become a part of the tribe, and then you're vested, and then you go all in. So let's look at the makeup of the music industry and where the money is from an artist standpoint, especially a DIY independent artist. The money is going away in the sales arena. Love it or hate it, like it or dislike it, fight it all you want with the anti-piracy laws and rules, but it's happening. And I think it's got so much momentum, it's not going to be stopped. But there are other revenue streams that are doing okay. Chris said that nobody's going to live shows anymore. People are going to live shows, but that's changing. But
There's just so many other alternatives for their entertainment.
Well,
so
and-
it's
Oh, go ahead.
no. It's
What I would say is that I agree with all that, and that's not why it gets me angry. What gets me angry is that because I think people telling artists, non-artists, telling artists those things makes them think differently about their own music in the sense that they don't have control over it. And that's what I don't like. It's like the interview with Celldweller, perfect example. He doesn't play live. His music, he sells it on, online and CDs and downloads, and has sold a ton through CD Baby. I won't say any numbers, but your jaw would drop. At least on the podcast. I'll tell you guys later. But a lot of what he's done is just develop a unique brand and identifiable music that it's like when you hear it, that's Celldweller. And I think that for an artist, yes, a lot of music is going to be free, but I think if you just think it's going to be free, I think that gives people the idea of just like not really taking a good look at themselves as an artist and the kind of art they produce and how they develop that into their musical brand that is worth something, as opposed to just, well, music's free. So, and that's what annoys me. And also the idea that, the original statement was that not that it was just free, but that it was just a means to an end. And the recorded medium was just a means to an end.
Well, and as an artist, which I'm not, let's clarify. And so I am one of those guys you're talking about.
That's why I wanted you in here for this conversation, because it's better when we all argue and fight.
Well, one of my best friends, Johnny Clay, plays in this band, The Dimes. He and I have had this conversation so much, and he's been very discouraged by this idea that this stuff that he's really working hard for and putting so much time and energy and passion, blood, sweat, and tears, sometimes literally, right, Chris, into, he's being told that there's no value there. He's going to get no return on that investment, that people are going to listen to it and they're going to use it. They're going to take it out and play it for their friends and play it in their car. But, potentially he's not going to get anything in return for that. And that's either because it's free or because there's so many hands in the cookie jar, because there's so many people getting a piece of it all the way through the distribution line from the point of sale to when it gets to the artist, that it's discouraging. And I agree, and I don't know what to do about that. It is frustrating. But again, I have to say that that's the trend, and so we have to start getting creative. And this is what I would tell any artist I would have this conversation with today, is get creative, think outside the box, look at new revenue streams, new potential income opportunities, try composing music for commercial use. See if that's something you can do. See if it's something you can have some success with. Work really hard and find a licensing agent, or find an advertising agency, or somebody who could potentially pitch your music for commercial use, maybe in movies or in films or in television spots. Now everybody's going after that right now too, and that's the big popular trend where everybody's saying, get licensing money. Well, that window is going to close because supply and demand is happening there too. But there's also other opportunities. If you can put together a really good live show today, a lot of people play live shows. Most of them aren't very good. But if you can put together a really good live show, there are all kinds of opportunities out there, and I'm telling you, like, I see them not every day, but every week, opportunities for private parties, for festivals, and I think too many people look at the big festivals, like your Music Fest Northwest, South by Southwest, Bumbershoot. Like, they don't have to be the big festivals. Go to your Da Vinci Days in Corvallis, or go to your Alberta Street Fair. Go to your movies in the park. Believe it or not,
that's the one we played this summer, the Tiger Balloon Festival.
The Tiger Balloon Festival. Believe it or not, here in the city of Portland, Oregon, they have movies in the park in the summer, and I think it's something silly, like 30 or 40 different parks throughout the summer. And for every movie, before the movie starts, they have a band play, and the bands get paid. And so if you can start getting out there and finding all these opportunities, if you have you have to have a good live show, and you have to have good quality music, but there's these other opportunities to make money where you can start filling up some of these gaps. And if you look at it, there's all these different pieces of the pie, and the piece of the pie that comes from music sales is getting smaller. Start finding other pieces of the pie that you can grow, so that you're not feeling like this thing that you're making and working so hard on is getting devalued and getting nothing for it.
To me, when I think about this a lot as an artist, it is supply and demand, and there's a lot of supply. But as artists, you have control of your supply, and if you're good, who says you have to be on iTunes? I mean, that's some of my thinking starting to go along those lines. I mean, not that I'm not going to release, when
Sure.
Hello Morning's album's done, that it's not going to be on iTunes. But thinking long term, it's like, who says all our music has to be available other places that aren't just directly from us? I mean, if
Now you're talking.
I don't mind if people share our music. I want everyone to, listen to it. But if you're trying to, really control it, I think that's where artists are going to have to stop thinking about, I just need to make sure it's everywhere sometimes. And for certain things, say, hey, this is only going to be
Exclusivity is sometimes better, yeah.
Are you suggesting direct to fan only as an option?
That is an option. I would.
Somebody's knocking on the door, Kevin. I think they're trying to get in. No, I'm just kidding. No, but I agree with you. I think direct to fan is an amazing channel that not enough people utilize in all the ways that you can. It's not rocket science to sell music on your site. There are so many options out there. I mean, too many artists are overwhelmed. I don't know how to sell music direct on my site. I hear this all the time.
Well, there are
Just pay
pitfalls.
someone to do it.
Well, and
There's plenty of knowledgeable folks.
It's so easy.
And there
to
are
do.
pitfalls for the average artist, a lot of them aren't organized. And so that kind of thing can turn into some disastrous results where people pay you and they never get their stuff. But no, I think that's going to be a major component. I mean, because that's, when I was talking about like connecting that to the A&R thing, that's like the total old way of thinking. And I think what the new old way of thinking is that everyone has to have everything I do. It has to be on iTunes and all these outlets. And if supply is the issue, that there's too much supply, then exclusivity is the only way you're going to combat that. And the
Sure.
way you're going to do that is by, making certain things only available in very small amounts in certain locations. And that way people are going to want it when it's there. And, and on top of all this, you got to be good too. You got to be developing a
I don't know
following.
about that.
Well, I'll tell you a couple of things that I have learned. So I'm actually working on the direct to fan campaign right now for the label I work with, and there's a couple of things that you definitely have to get down. Most people that buy their music, if you're buying it digitally, most people are buying it from iTunes. It's no secret. I think 80% or more of digital sales is going to iTunes for music, and so you don't really want to compete with iTunes. They're doing a really good job. And so just acknowledge that more than anything. Then say, how can I be different than iTunes and not compete with iTunes? And the solution to that, as best I've learned so far, is to create unique oftentimes physical packages that you can sell your music with. Sell vinyl. Vinyl is a very trendy thing right now. People are buying it. It's an expensive upfront cost, but once you sell a few, it's a really good income generating product to sell. Sell signed vinyl, sell physical CDs, put packages together where you're selling digital with an exclusive T-shirt, with the guitar tabs. I mean, there's all these different options. I mean, it's endless. I mean, you could do a photo album of the recording session and put that in there. I mean, it really is. There's so many cliche things everybody does, but I think the smart people will get outside the box and create these unique packages. So you can't get it on iTunes, you can't get it on CD Baby, you can't get it at Amazon. You can only get it direct from the artist. And now you're giving people a reason to come to you, because now they're coming to you to get something they can't get anywhere else. Now that's the first major concept that I've kind of come to at this point. The other major concept is this fan base, tribe building, engaging your fans, and having a very engaged, vibrant, active fan base. If people aren't engaged and active and know what you're doing, that you're releasing a record, that you have a unique package, that you have a website you're selling your music directly for, then it's never going to work. So you have to build up, a fan base, like a real fan base where people are engaged. And I think online digital strategy, social media is the way to do that today. And then you create these unique packages I am for the listeners out there. I'm waving my hands around.
Yes,
I'm flailing around back and forth.
Very entertaining.
But you have to do these things. You can't just put up a unique package on your site, and you can't just simply tweet about it. You have to do these things in conjunction if you want it to work. And even at that, it's hard work.
It is hard
It's
work.
not a slam dunk.
And then I think that's, where my band Hello Morning's at. We're brand new. We really have no fan base. And I've talked about this on I think the last Roundtable, where I kind of retweaked my Twitter strategy for the time being. It's just hard, once to get that ball rolling. Once you get the fan ball rolling, it's real easy because the fans start helping, propagate that and keep it going. But I think that's the challenge a lot of artists have, is just like, how do you get something moving from nothing? And, we share ideas on the show a lot, and sometimes it works. For us now, we've kind of been focusing on some video stuff, because I've noticed that some bands have strengths in certain areas and weaknesses in certain areas, and I've noticed some of our weaknesses and had to make some adjustments on. And maybe someone doing the cool Twitter feed nonstop's not going to be what our band does, And it's just hard to figure that stuff out and then really find something that you can just focus in on and make it work. But
and I think the inherent hard part in all of this is, at the end of the day, you're an artist, and you just want to make music. And you just want to put your heart and soul and your passion into the music. You don't want to think about creating these cool packages with T-shirts and guitar tabs and vinyl. And you don't want to think about, tweeting so many times a day and being on Facebook and making these videos and putting them on YouTube. I mean, Chris, is it a little overwhelming to hear all of these things that you need to do to succeed in today's independent?
Not anymore, because now I just ignore it all. You see, I haven't tweeted in a month.
He's
so.
like, I stopped tweeting. Nothing's really changed, and I'm not as stressed out.
I'm happier. I'm healthier. So the moral is stop tweeting.
That's right.
Everyone just stop tweeting and go for a run.
We've talked about. I've noticed a drastic reduction in tweets from the people I follow.
I would say stop tweeting, shop your record, find a label, and get
on
the radio.
Excellent. I'm writing that down right now.
All right.
Well, I think we're done here. We do have...
We've just solved everyone's problems that were listening.
We do have a listener call I wanted to play, and so let's play that now, and then we'll close things out.
CD Baby Podcast.
Message line
206-426-5683.
The number you have dialed
206-426-5683.
Hey, everybody on the podcast. This is Hale Hawkins from the Deep River Roots Band out of Indianapolis, Indiana. I just wanted to say something that I learned the hard way several times before I actually practiced it in motion, was getting good quality directions to venues. When I started playing my solo career in 2005, I was pretty much a one-man show. I would drive the van, have the PA, everything would be on my energy and my effort, and a lot of times I wouldn't get the clearest directions. So when I started using first MapQuest, I discovered that not always are these online websites with directions the most accurate. So I started going with Google and then MapQuest, and if there was any discrepancy at all between the two directions I would get from both websites, I would call the venue and say which one is correct. And that's the other thing, is make sure when you're on the road that you have a contact number inside the venue to assure that you have some sort of lifeline if you get stuck on the trip, saying why you're late or whatever. So be sure to have some good navigation devices. And, I don't know how that will apply to the GPS systems. The band hasn't had the budget to go to that. Anyway, that's the lesson that I've learned the hard way. You can check out my music at www.deepriverrootsband.com. So check us out. Thanks.
Thank you for that call. I think it said Caleb. It kind of broke up a little bit right when he said his name. But yes, getting good directions to a show is always extremely helpful, and having the phone number to somebody on site.
We've always got the double security measure. First, I put the bass player, Arthur. His task is to put together the itinerary book for the tour with the phone numbers and the directions and all this stuff. So then he calls and makes sure the directions are good. Then we have an iPhone.
iPhone, that's the touring band's best friend.
Yeah, just in case. Or steered wrong
But it
somewhere.
is amazing on tour the kind of directions you'll get when you get into small towns. I remember one day on tour, it was my turn to drive the bus, and it was like 6 a.m. I get woken up and I'm all groggy, and I'm driving us into this town, and I lean over and get the tour book and look at the directions, and it literally says, like, take this road and turn left at the big red barn. And it's like 6 a.m. I'm like, are you kidding me? How am I supposed to figure out? And I'm going down this road. There's kind of a brick-colored barn and another one. And I'm like, well, was that red? Was that red? I'm not sure. And then finally this big, bright red barn's there. I'm like, that's got to be it. So it's just like, that's preferably not the direction.
And ladies and gentlemen, this is why we have tour managers.
That's right. That's right. But yeah, it's, and sometimes GPS systems are wrong. One time we were touring, and we had a laptop mounted on up by the driver area and had a GPS system, and the GPS was telling us to like go in this way obscure neighborhood of Phoenix, saying that was where the venue was, and it was totally on the opposite end of town. But the guy driving it was his little contraption, so he was determined to prove that it was right. We nearly had a meltdown with people. That was like one of the biggest tensest moments in our band was when someone refused to admit the GPS was wrong.
Well, as much as I know it's not fun showing up to a venue before the doors are open or before someone's there and waiting around, but I mean, come on, people, show up. Like, plan to be there 2 or 3 hours ahead of time. Just do it. The last tour I was involved with planning, the van broke down 6 times, and I'm not exaggerating, 6 times, and that creates problems. It's unforeseen.
Yes, it does.
And you have to plan for the unforeseen. I mean, it's bad enough about what it does to showing up, but you know what that does to everybody's demeanor?
Oh, you're
Yeah.
frazzled. In small town poets, it got to the point where we just had to, like, okay, from 2 to 4, we're broken down. Somewhere on the side of the highway. It's just,
Yeah, seriously.
It just became a reoccurring event. But anyway, thanks for that call, Caleb. If you'd like to chime in with some of your thoughts, comments, mistake stories, suggestions, give us a call at 206-426-5683. And you can email us at info@cdbabypodcast.com. And if you go to the website, which is just cdbabypodcast.com, you can weigh in on the show notes as well. And I'll have some links there to the article I mentioned at the top of the show. And Ryan, it's always good to have you sitting in. My door is always open. Anytime you want to come.
That is not true.
There's no place I'd rather be right now than right here.
Oh, Ryan, that's so sweet. I'm going to shed a tear over here. But thank you. And we should be back next week with another podcast.
All right.
Peace.
You've been listening to the CD Baby DIY Musician Podcast, broadcasting from Portland, Oregon, USA.